sold to the highest bidder, is a dark romance audiobook by Amy Seymour, narrated by Phoebe Lane and Tony Cooper. Chapter 1.
6:15 a.m. The alarm screams its familiar warning, and I silence it with the practiced swipe of someone who's done this exact motion 1,462 times. Yes, I've counted. When your life becomes a series of identical days, you start keeping track of things that don't matter, just to feel like something, anything, is changing. I slide my feet into the same fuzzy slippers I've worn for 3 years. The left one has a hole near the big toe that I keep meaning to replace, but somehow never do. It's like everything else in my life. Functional but falling apart, practical but not particularly beautiful. The coffee maker gurgles to life, another loyal soldier in my army of routine. French vanilla creamer, 2 packets of sugar. I used to drink it black, trying to be sophisticated, but what's the point of pretending anymore? I want things sweet. I want softness in a world that insists on being sharp. My reflection in the kitchen window shows a woman who looks older than 28. Not bad, exactly, decent bone structure, eyes that used to sparkle with possibility. My mother always said I had interesting features rather than pretty ones. Translation: I'm the kind of woman men notice, but don't necessarily chase. I check my phone while the coffee brews. Instagram feeds full of engagement rings and ultrasound photos. Facebook timeline cluttered with couple selfies from exotic locations I'll never visit. LinkedIn connections announcing promotions I'll never get. Sarah from college got married last weekend. The photos are gorgeous. Flowing white dress, handsome groom, families beaming with joy. She looks radiant in that way only truly happy people can. I click like and type a generic congratulation, swallowing the bitter taste of envy. 28 years old. At what point does young professional figuring things out become spinster who missed her chance? My grandmother was married with 3 children by my age. My mother at least had me and dad by 30. I have a studio apartment that smells faintly of the Thai restaurant downstairs and a goldfish named Mr. Darcy, who's probably judging my life choices. The commute to work is 43 minutes door to door. I know because I've timed it obsessively, looking for ways to shave off seconds from a journey that leads nowhere I particularly want to be. The train car is full of other people living parallel lives, scrolling phones, avoiding eye contact, pretending we're all going somewhere important. I work at Morrison & Associates, a mid-tier marketing firm where I'm officially an administrative coordinator and unofficially the person who fixes everyone else's problems for a salary that's slightly more than the living wage for the city. My desk is positioned so I can see out the window, but all I see is another office building filled with people just like me. "Morning, Olivia," chirps Jennifer from HR, who somehow maintains enthusiasm for life despite being 45 and divorced. "Ready for another wonderful day?" I smile and nod because that's what functional adults do. But inside, I'm screaming. When did I become the kind of person who gets excited about new office supplies? When did my biggest adventure become trying a different lunch spot? The work itself isn't terrible. Organizing schedules, managing correspondence, sitting in meetings where I take notes about campaigns for products I'll never afford. I'm good at it, which might be the most depressing part. I excel at being ordinary. During lunch, I open dating apps with the same enthusiasm most people reserve for dental appointments. Swipe, swipe, swipe. Generic photos of men holding fish, men at the gym, men with their faces obscured by sunglasses and baseball caps. The few who interest me, the ones with ambition burning behind their eyes, the ones who look like they could take charge of a room and make everyone listen, they match with me occasionally. We exchange messages that start promising and fade into disappointment. "Hey, beautiful. Want to grab drinks?" Always drinks. Never dinner, never coffee, never anything that suggests they see me as more than a potential conquest. And when I do meet them, there's always the same story. They're not looking for anything serious right now. They're focusing on their career. They're keeping their options open. Translation: I'm good enough for a night, not good enough for a lifetime. The men who do want relationships, kind, stable men with steady jobs and predictable futures, they don't make my pulse race. They don't have that edge, that intensity one crave. They're safe and boring, and I'm tired of safe and boring. I want dangerous. I want consuming. I want a man who looks at me like I'm the most important thing in his world. By 5:30, I'm back on the train, surrounded by the same tired faces heading home to lives that probably mirror mine. I stop at the grocery store and buy ingredients for dinner for one. Again. My apartment greets me with silence. Mr. Darcy swims lazy circles in his bowl, the most exciting thing in either of our days. I pour a glass of wine, the cheap kind that comes with a twist-off cap, and settle onto my couch. This is it. This is my life. 43 minutes to work, 8 hours of other people's priorities, 43 minutes home, takeout containers in the trash, Netflix until I fall asleep on the couch. I'm 28 years old, and I feel like I'm already dead. When my phone rings at 8 p.m., I'm half asleep in front of a cooking show, dreaming of lives more interesting than mine. Olivia. Heather's voice bubbles through the speaker. I have the most incredible news.
Chapter 2.
Heather and Scott. My college friends who found each other after years of dancing around their obvious attraction. They're the kind of couple that makes single people feel hopeful and nauseous in equal measure. Remember how Scott got that promotion? Heather's practically vibrating with excitement. Well, he wants to celebrate, and you know what that means. European adventure. I sit up straighter. Wine forgotten. Europe? 3 countries, 10 days. Prague, Vienna, and Budapest. The golden triangle of gorgeous architecture, incredible food, and men with sexy accents. She pauses dramatically. And before you say you can't afford it, Scott is covering hotels. You just need flights and spending money. My practical mind starts calculating. My savings account, laughable as it is, could technically cover a budget trip. But those savings are supposed to be for emergencies, for security, for the responsible future I keep promising myself I'll build. Heather, I can't just. When's the last time you did something spontaneous? She interrupts. When's the last time you felt alive, Olivia? Really, truly alive? The question hits like a physical blow. When was the last time? I can't remember. Every day bleeds into the next, a watercolor, painting left in the rain. What if I hate my job when I get back? What if you hate your life if you don't go? That night, I lie awake staring at the ceiling, Heather's words echoing in my head. At 3 a.m., I open my laptop and book the flight. My hands shake as I enter my credit card information, but for the first time in months, I feel something resembling excitement. The next 2 weeks pass in a whirlwind of preparation. I request vacation time, which my boss grants with surprise. Apparently, I'm the first person to actually use my allotted days. I shop for clothes suitable for European adventures, splurging on a red dress that makes me feel like someone worth noticing. Prague is magical. Ancient bridges, golden spires, beer that costs less than coffee back home. For the first 3 days, I feel like the person I always wanted to be, adventurous, cultured, free. Then Heather and Scott remember they're in love. It starts subtly. Lingering touches during dinner, whispered conversations I'm not part of, looks that exclude the rest of the world, including me. In Vienna, they disappear for hours, leaving me to explore art museums alone. I take selfies in front of famous paintings, but can't shake the feeling that I look as lonely as I feel. "Sorry, Liv," Scott says when they finally return, Heather's hair mussed and her cheeks flushed. "We just needed some couple time."
Couple time.
On my vacation, using my emotional support to justify their romantic getaway. By the time we board the flight to Budapest, I'm questioning every decision that led me here. The plane is small, cramped, filled with budget travelers like us. I press my face to the window and watch countries pass below like a patchwork quilt. That's when the pilot's voice crackles through the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, due to sudden military activity in Hungarian airspace, we're being diverted to make an emergency landing in Moldavia. This is purely precautionary. We expect to be back in the air within 12 hours. Nervous murmurs ripple through the cabin. Heather grabs Scott's hand. I grip my armrest and wonder if this is the universe's way of telling me I should have stayed home. Moldavia. I couldn't find it on a map if my life depended on it. The airport is small, gray, filled with officials who speak rapid, harsh-sounding languages. Our airline representative, a tired woman with kind eyes, gathers us in a group. "We've arranged accommodation at the Hotel Continental. Please stay within the hotel premises for your safety. The local culture is traditional. Unescorted women can attract unwanted attention." The hotel is decent enough, Soviet-era architecture with an attempt at modern renovation. Our rooms are on the same floor, which would normally be comforting. Tonight, it's torture. Heather and Scott's room shares a wall with mine. At 9 p.m., I hear their muffled voices through the thin partition. Laughter, Heather's distinctive giggle that I used to find endearing. By 10 p.m., the sounds have changed. Low murmurs, the unmistakable creak of bed springs. By 11 p.m., I'm listening to my best friends have passionate sex while I lie alone in a foreign country, wondering how my attempt at adventure became another reminder of everything I don't have. Heather's voice rises above the wall, breathless, ecstatic, completely transported. I shove pillows over my head, but I can still hear them. Still hear the life I want, but can't seem to find. That's when I make the decision that will change everything. I pull on jeans, boots, and my leather jacket. Grab my purse, hotel keycard, and passport. The hallway is empty, the elevator silent. The lobby clerk barely glances up as I walk past. The night air is crisp, filled with unfamiliar sounds and smells. Street lamps cast pools of yellow light on cobblestone streets that could be from any century. In the distance, I can see the warm glow of what looks like a bar district. For the first time in years, I'm truly alone and truly free. No expectations, no safety net, no one to answer to. I should be terrified. Instead, I feel exhilarated. I don't know it yet, but I'm walking toward the moment that will define the rest of my life.
Chapter 3.
The bar I find is called Café Noir, a name that tries too hard to be mysterious, but somehow works in this ancient city. It's tucked between a bakery and a shop selling handmade lace, the kind of place you'd walk past 100 times without noticing. Inside, it's all dark wood and brass fixtures, filled with cigarette smoke that would be banned in any civilized country. The clientele is an interesting mix. Locals nursing drinks that look older than me, a table of German tourists arguing about football, and a few individuals who seem to exist in the shadows between the light. The bartender is a mountain of a man with kind eyes and broken English. "American?" he asks, and when I nod, he grins. "Welcome to Moldavia. You are brave to walk alone at night."
Brave.
When's the last time anyone called me brave? He serves me something called tuica, a local plum brandy that burns going down but warms everything it touches. I'm not much of a drinker, but tonight I want to be someone else. Someone bold enough to take risks. What brings you to our little country? Asks a voice beside me. I turn to find a woman about my age with bleached blonde hair and too much makeup, but a genuine smile. Flight got diverted. I explain, already feeling the alcohol loosening my tongue. My friends are back at the hotel having loud sex, and I decided I'd rather be anywhere else. She laughs, a harsh sound that's seen too much. Ah, the curse of the third wheel. I know it well. She extends a manicured hand. Katerina. Olivia. Tell me, Olivia, what do you do when you're not escaping hotel room romance? And somehow I find myself talking about my boring job, my boring life, my desperate desire for something, anything extraordinary. The tuica makes everything seem profound and tragic and hilarious all at once. You know what your problem is? Katerina says after I've finished my sob story. You're waiting for life to happen to you instead of making it happen. Easy for you to say. You probably have your shit together. She laughs again, but this time there's something bitter in it. Honey, none of us have our shit together. We just get better at pretending. By my third drink, or maybe fourth, who's counting, I'm telling everyone within earshot about our travel adventure. How we were supposed to be in Budapest by now, drinking wine in thermal baths and flirting with Hungarian men. How instead we're stuck in a country I can't pronounce, and I'm drinking alone while my friends conduct their own private porn show. The airline said not to leave the hotel. I confess to my new drinking buddies, Katerina, a guy named Dmitri who claims to be a poet, and an older American couple from Ohio. But what are they going to do? Arrest me for having a drink? You're in the old world now, Dmitri says, lighting another cigarette. Different rules. More flexible. I don't notice the men at the corner table listening to every word. Don't notice how they exchange glances when I mention being alone, being foreign, being unaccounted for. Don't notice one of them slips something into my drink while I'm distracted by Katerina's story about her ex-boyfriend. The room starts spinning subtly at first, then more aggressively. I assume it's the alcohol. I'm definitely not used to this much. But there's something else, something that makes my thoughts feel wrapped in cotton. I should probably head back, I mumble, standing too quickly. The floor tilts under my feet. Careful, honey, Katerina says, but her voice sounds far away. Want me to call you a taxi? I can walk. Hotel's not far. But when I step outside, the street that was charming and mysterious an hour ago now seems menacing. The shadows are deeper, the silence more complete. My legs feel like they're made of water. Strong hands grasp my arms before I can fall. Miss, you are not well, a voice says in accented English. We help you. I try to speak, to say I'm fine. I just need air. But my tongue feels thick and useless. The world is spinning faster now, colors bleeding into each other like watercolors in rain. No, I try to say, but it comes out as a whisper. Hotel. I need to go back to the hotel. Yes, we take you to hotel, the voice soothes. Safe place. But we're not moving toward the Hotel Continental. We're moving toward a black van with tinted windows, toward men with cold eyes and cruel smiles. I want to scream, to run, to fight. But whatever they put in my drink has stolen my strength, my voice, my ability to save myself. The last thing I remember is the sound of the van door slamming shut.
Chapter 4.
I wake up to the sound of crying. Not my own crying, though that comes later. Someone else's soft, desperate weeping that sounds like hope dying by degrees. My head feels like it's been stuffed with cotton and hit with a sledgehammer. My mouth tastes like metal and regret. When I try to sit up, the room spins in nauseating circles and bile rises in my throat. I'm not in my hotel room. I'm not anywhere I recognize. The space is elegant in a way that makes my skin crawl. High ceilings painted with cherubs that seem to mock our situation, crystal chandeliers that cast prismatic light across our terrified faces, furniture that belongs in a museum dedicated to human suffering. But there are no windows. The only door is heavy wood with ornate brass fixtures and no handle on this side. The walls are covered in rich burgundy wallpaper that absorbs sound, making our whispers feel like shouts and our sobs feel like screams. And I'm not alone. 7 other women sit in various states of distress around the room. Some cry quietly into their hands, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Others stare at nothing with empty eyes that have seen too much. A few pace like caged animals, their expensive heels clicking against marble floors in desperate rhythms. We're all dressed identically, not in our own clothes, but in evening gowns that cost more than my monthly rent. Silk, satin, designer labels I recognize from magazines I could never afford. My dress is midnight blue, cut to enhance curves I didn't know I had. The fabric whispers against my skin like a secret I don't want to keep. Where are we? I ask, and my voice comes out as a croak. A redhead with smeared makeup looks at me with pity that cuts deeper than hatred would. Her green dress is torn at the shoulder, revealing a glimpse of something that might be a bruise or might be a shadow. You're new. I can tell. Still asking questions like they matter. I don't understand. I was at a bar, then you woke up here. Same story for all of us. Different details. She sits beside me on an antique settee that probably cost more than my car. Her voice carries a cultured British accent that speaks of private schools and family money. I'm Charlotte. Used to be Charlotte Pemberton, daughter of Lord Pemberton, Oxford graduate, financial analyst. Now, I'm lot number 6. Lot number. The words feel foreign in my mouth, like I'm speaking a language I don't want to understand. Sweet girl, says another woman, older, maybe 40, with the kind of bone structure that suggests she was once breathtakingly beautiful. Now she just looks breathtakingly tired. You really don't know, do you? A brunette with haunted brown eyes looks up from where she's been staring at her hands. I was visiting Berlin with my sister for her bachelorette party. Went to the bathroom in a club, never came back out. That was 3 days ago. Or maybe a week. Time doesn't work the same way here. I was backpacking through Romania, whispers a girl who can't be older than 22. Staying in hostels, trying to find myself like every other American college graduate with rich parents and no direction. Found myself, all right? Found myself in hell. Each story is a variation on the same theme. Women traveling alone or in small groups, separated from their safety nets, vulnerable in foreign places where they don't speak the language or understand the customs. All of us educated, all of us from middle class or wealthy families. All of us the kind of women who thought our privilege would protect us. Before Charlotte can answer my question about lot numbers, the door opens with a whisper of expensive hinges. The conversation stops, as if someone has pressed a mute button on our collective terror. A woman enters, 50s, immaculately dressed in a Chanel suit that probably costs more than my yearly salary, carrying herself like royalty visiting the peasants. Her hair is silver white, perfectly styled, and her makeup is flawless despite the early hour. She wears pearls that catch the light and diamonds that catch the eye. Behind her are 2 men who look like they've stepped out of a Mafia movie, expensive suits that can't quite hide the bulk of weapons underneath, faces that have seen too much violence to ever look truly civilized again. Ladies, she says in perfect, unaccented English that somehow makes her more terrifying than if she'd spoken in harsh foreign syllables. Welcome to your opportunity. The crying stops. Every woman in the room focuses on her with the desperate attention of the condemned listening for their reprieve. My name is Madame Volkov, and I represent certain exclusive clientele. Wealthy gentlemen who appreciate beauty and refinement and are willing to invest substantially in it. Investment. Like we're stocks or real estate or vintage wine. She walks among us with the confidence of someone who has never feared for her safety, never wondered if she'd see another sunrise, never had to calculate the odds of survival based on the whims of strangers. Tonight, you'll be presented to these gentlemen at a private charitable auction. Think of it as sophisticated matchmaking for individuals of discerning taste. The highest bidder becomes your patron, your protector, your provider. What if we refuse? Asked Charlotte, the brunette with the British accent, and I admire her for having the courage to voice what we're all thinking. Madame Volkov's smile never wavers, but something cold flickers behind her eyes. Refuse what, darling? A chance at luxury, security, and purpose? Why would anyone refuse that? She pauses, letting her gaze linger on each of us in turn. You've all made choices that led you here. Poor judgment, reckless behavior, failure to properly protect yourselves. Now you have the opportunity to make better choices. The unspoken threat hangs in the air like smoke from expensive cigarettes. But what if we want to go home? Asks the young backpacker, her voice small and broken. Home. Madame Volkov tilts her head like she's considering an abstract concept. To what exactly? Jobs that underpay you? Families who don't understand you? Men who don't appreciate your value? Here, you'll be treasured.
Cherished.
Given purpose beyond your small dreams. She claps her hands once, and the sound echoes like a gunshot. You'll be bathed, dressed, and prepared. I suggest you embrace this opportunity with grace. Your alternative options are significantly less appealing. The next few hours pass in a nightmare of preparation that feels like being dressed for our own funerals. We're taken to a spa-like area with marble surfaces and golden fixtures, where silent women with dead eyes scrub us clean with expensive soaps that smell like flowers and taste like despair when we accidentally get them in our mouths. They style our hair, mine swept up in an elaborate chignon that exposes my neck like I'm presenting it for slaughter. They paint our faces with professional makeup that transforms us into strangers, sophisticated, mysterious, desirable. In the mirror, I see the woman I always wanted to be, the woman who could command attention and inspire devotion. I just never imagined becoming her like this. The dress they've put me in fits perfectly, which is somehow more terrifying than if it had been ill-fitting. It means they've been watching us, studying us, planning this for longer than we know. The midnight blue silk clings to my body like water, making me look Kavya, more feminine, more like the kind of woman men fight wars over. When they lead us to the auction room, my blood turns to ice water that flows through veins I can no longer feel. It's a theater, red velvet seats arranged in neat rows, golden fixtures that gleam like captured sunlight, a stage with a runway that extends into the audience like a pier extending into dark water. Men in expensive suits fill the seats, studying us like we're art they might purchase for their private collections. They're older, mostly 50s and 60s, with the kind of confidence that comes from never having to worry about money or consequences. Some are handsome in that distinguished silver fox way. Others look like toads in Italian leather. All of them look at us with the same expression: ownership before purchase. The auctioneer is a thin man with sharp features and a voice like honey poured over broken glass. He speaks multiple languages as he introduces each lot, describing us like prized livestock. Lot number 1, 24 years old, German, speaks 3 languages fluently. Classical music training, comes from good stock, excellent for breeding. Starting bid, 40,000 euros. I watch in horror as Charlotte, lot number 6, is paraded across the stage. She's found some dignity in the preparation, standing straighter, lifting her chin like she's daring them to break her. The bidding is brutal and efficient, numbers climbing as men raise paddles like they're bidding on a racehorse. She sells for 68,000 euros to a man with cold eyes and scarred hands. One by one, the women are claimed. Each sale feels like watching someone die, watching a person become property in real time. The men who show no joy, no excitement, just satisfaction at acquiring something they wanted. Then it's my turn. Lot number 7, the auctioneer announces, and somehow my legs carry me onto that stage. 28 years old, American, college-educated. Administrative background with demonstrated reliability and attention to detail. Starting bid, 40,000 euros. The lights are blinding, but I can see them out there, rows of predators in expensive suits, evaluating my worth like I'm a commodity. My hands shake, but I force myself to stand straight. If I'm going to be sold like cattle, I'll at least maintain my dignity. That's when I see him. 5th row, center seat. While the other men look at me with hungry calculation, this one studies me with something else, curiosity, maybe, or professional interest. He's younger than most, maybe mid-30s, with dark hair and the kind of face that belongs in movies about dangerous men. He wears his power like other men wear cologne, subtly but unmistakably. When our eyes meet, I expect him to look away or look through me like the others do. Instead, he holds my gaze with an intensity that makes my breath catch. There's something in his expression, not kindness, nothing so simple, but recognition. Like he sees something in me that even I don't know is there. 50,000, calls a voice from the back. 60,000, counters someone closer to the stage. The numbers climb, but I keep looking at him. He hasn't bid yet, just watches me with those dark eyes that seem to see past the makeup and dress to whatever's underneath. 75,000 euros. Do I hear 80? That's when I make a decision that will haunt me forever. Instead of looking away, instead of closing my eyes and pretending this isn't happening, I mouth a single word to the man in the 5th row. Please. Not to the room. Not to fate or God, or whatever forces brought me here. To him, specifically. Because something in his face suggests he might be the only one in this room who still remembers what it feels like to be human. He raises his paddle. 150,000 euros. The room goes silent. Even the auctioneer pauses, surprised by the dramatic jump. Other bidders look at him with surprise and something that might be respect or might be fear. Going once, going twice, sold to Mr. Bravestone. The gavel falls like a judge pronouncing sentence.
As the other bidders disperse with their acquisitions, I approach the stage where she waits. Up close, she's even more intriguing than I anticipated. Not the most conventionally beautiful. Her features are too strong, her gaze too direct. But there's something about her that sets her apart from the others. While the previous lots either cowered or dissociated, this one studies me with sharp intelligence. Her fear is obvious. I can see it in the slight tremor of her hands, the way she swallows repeatedly, but there's steel underneath. Fire that hasn't been extinguished by whatever brought her here. What's your name? I ask, and I'm surprised by my own genuine curiosity about her answer. Olivia. Her voice is steady despite her obvious terror. Olivia Sanchez. The name fits her, strong, distinctive, with just enough musical quality to linger in memory. Well, Olivia Sanchez, I say, extending my arm like a gentleman escorting a lady to dinner rather than a predator claiming his prize. You belong to me now. She looks at my offered arm for a long moment, and I can see her mind working, calculating odds and options. Then she lifts her chin a fraction higher, not in defeat, but in defiance. No one belongs to anyone, she says quietly. I smile for the first time all evening. It's been a long time since anyone has challenged me, even in such a small way. We'll see about that, Olivia Sanchez.
I take his arm because I have no choice, but I don't bow my head. If this is to be my fate, I'll meet it with whatever dignity I can muster. As he leads me away from the stage, away from the other women who are being claimed by their new owners, I catch a final glimpse of Charlotte. She's being escorted toward an exit by her buyer, a man whose smile never reaches his eyes. She doesn't look back. The corridor we walk through feels like a journey into hell, Ornate decorations that can't disguise the underlying brutality of this place. Oil paintings of long-dead aristocrats who probably engaged in similar horrors. Carpet so thick it muffles the sound of our footsteps. "You're wondering what happens next," he says, his voice conversational, like we're discussing dinner plans. "Yes, among other things," I replied, in a voice that comes out smaller than I intended. Such as whether you're going to kill me." He stops walking and turns to look at me, and for a moment, I think I've made a fatal mistake. But then something that might be amusement flickers across his features. "If I wanted you dead, Olivia, I wouldn't have paid 150,000 euros for the privilege." We resume walking, but his words don't comfort me. There are worse things than death, and I have the distinct impression I'm about to discover what some of them are. But as we walk deeper into whatever nightmare awaits me, one thought keeps echoing in my mind. I looked at him, and he looked back. In a room full of predators and prey, we saw each other. That has to count for something.
It has to.
Chapter 5. I've attended dozens of these auctions over the years. The ritual is always the same: bid, acquire, process the paperwork, arrange transport. Business transactions conducted with the efficiency of any other investment portfolio. Tonight feels different. Perhaps it's the way she looked at me during the bidding, not with the desperate pleading I've seen from others, but with something resembling calculation. As if she was studying me as intently as I was evaluating her. Or perhaps it's the unexpected premium I paid. 150,000 euros for a woman who, by conventional standards, shouldn't have commanded such a price. The German industrialist, a man whose hobbies tend toward the particularly unsavory, seemed genuinely shocked when I outbid him so dramatically. But watching her on that stage, seeing the steel in her spine despite her obvious terror, I found myself doing something I hadn't done in years, acting on impulse rather than cold calculation. Now, as I guide her through the corridors toward the processing area, I study her reaction to our surroundings. Most acquisitions either sob or dissociate completely at this stage. A few become hysterical, requiring sedation. But Olivia Sanchez does something different. She observes. Her green eyes catalogue every detail. The security cameras in the corners, the locked doors we pass, the subtle signs that indicate which rooms serve what purposes. She's mapping her environment like a prisoner planning escape routes. Interesting. The processing typically takes about an hour, I inform her as we approach the administrative wing. Documentation, medical screening, preparation for transport. Medical screening. Her voice remains steady, but I notice her grip tighten on my arm. Standard procedure. Blood work, physical examination, verification of condition. My investments require certain assurances. She stops walking. Condition. I turn to face her fully, and once again I'm struck by the intelligence in her eyes. She's not asking because she doesn't understand. She's asking because she wants to hear me say it. Purity, Miss Sanchez. Cleanliness. Freedom from diseases that would diminish your value. Color drains from her face, but she doesn't flinch. And if I refuse, then you'll be returned to general inventory for the next auction. I'm told the clientele for those events is less discriminating in their treatment of property. We resume walking, but I can feel the change in her posture, the way fear sharpens into something more dangerous. Good. Fear without fight is useless to me. I need women who can adapt, who can survive in my world. The processing facility is clinical in its efficiency. White walls, medical equipment, staff who perform their duties with a detachment of people who've learned not to see the humanity in what they're handling. Dr. Reyes, a woman in her 60s who once worked for more legitimate medical establishments, approaches with a clipboard and the kind of professional smile that never reaches the eyes. Mr. Bravestone, she says in accented English, your acquisition is quite lovely. Shall we proceed with the standard protocol? Modified protocol, I hear myself say, and I'm as surprised as she is by the words. Expedited processing. Skip the extended examination. Dr. Reyes raises an eyebrow. Sir, we haven't verified. I'll take the risk. It's not like me to deviate from established procedures, especially when dealing with investments of this magnitude. But something about the way Olivia holds herself, proud despite her fear, dignified despite her circumstances, makes the usual degradation seem unnecessary.
The medical facility looks like something from a nightmare disguised as a private clinic. Clean white surfaces that can't hide the underlying purpose, equipment that seems designed more for veterinary use than human care, staff who look at me like I'm a specimen rather than a person.
But he's changed something.
I can see it in the doctor's surprised expression, in the way the nurses exchange glances. Whatever they normally do to women in my position, he's decided not to do it to me. I don't know if I should be grateful or more terrified. In my limited experience with predators, and I'm rapidly learning that's what Henry Bravestone is, unexpected mercy often comes with a higher price. The expedited processing consists of basic blood work and a cursory physical examination. Humiliating, but not the brutal violation I'd feared based on the doctor's initial demeanor. Throughout it all, I'm aware of his presence just outside the examination room, not watching, but close enough that I can feel his influence over everything that happens to me. When they're finished, they bring me a different outfit, not the evening gown from the auction, but clothes that look suspiciously like they were chosen specifically for me. Dark jeans that fit perfectly, a soft gray sweater, boots that are both practical and expensive. The kind of outfit I might have chosen for myself if I had unlimited funds and better taste. How do you know my size? I ask the nurse, but she doesn't answer. Of course she doesn't answer. In this place, I'm not a person who asks questions. I'm property that occasionally makes noise. When I emerge from the changing room, Henry is waiting with an expression I can't read. Not satisfaction, exactly, but something like approval. Much better, he says, and there's something almost gentle in his voice. You look more like yourself. You don't know what I look like. Don't I? The question hangs between us as he leads me toward what appears to be an exit. But before we reach it, a sound makes us both stop. Raised voices from another room. A woman's scream cut short. My blood turns to ice, but Henry's expression doesn't change. If anything, he looks mildly annoyed, like someone has interrupted an important meeting with unnecessary noise. That's Charlotte, I whisper, recognizing the voice despite the terror that's transformed it. The woman from the room, lot number 6. Yes, he says simply. Aren't you going to do something? He looks at me with something that might be curiosity. Such as? Help her. Stop whatever's happening to her. Why would I do that? The casual way he asks the question, like I've suggested he intervene in a stranger's argument rather than what sounds like torture, makes me realize exactly what kind of man I'm dealing with. Not just dangerous, but someone who's lost the ability to see suffering as something that requires action. Because she's human, I say quietly. Because she's in pain, and you have the power to stop it. For a moment, something flickers across his face, surprise, maybe, or recognition. Like I've reminded him of something he'd forgotten. But then his expression hardens again. She belongs to someone else now. Her treatment is no longer my concern. And I belong to you. Yes. So, what happens to me is your concern. Completely. The simplicity of his answer terrifies me more than threats would. There's no malice in it, no cruel anticipation. Just matter-of-fact ownership, like I'm a car he's purchased or a house he's invested in.
Chapter 6.
The car ride feels eternal, winding through mountain roads that seem to lead nowhere and everywhere at once. My wrists still ache from where the zip ties cut into them during the auction, though Henry, Mr. Bravestone, I should call him, removed them the moment we left that horrible place. The leather seats of his Mercedes are buttersoft beneath my borrowed dress, but I can't stop shivering. He hasn't spoken since we left the city 3 hours ago. I steal glances at his profile in the driver's seat, sharp jawline, those unsettling dark eyes focused on the road ahead. His hands grip the steering wheel with casual control, expensive watch catching the dashboard light. Everything about him screams danger wrapped in sophistication. "Where are you taking me?" I finally whisper, my voice hoarse from crying earlier. "Home," he says simply, as if that explains anything. The mansion appears suddenly as we round a curve, rising from the mountainside like something from a Gothic novel. It's beautiful and terrifying, all stone and soaring windows, with lights glowing warmly from within. But those windows look like eyes watching us approach, and the wrought iron gates that swing open automatically feel more like the entrance to a prison than a home. "Welcome to Raven's Hollow," Henry says, and there's something almost tender in his voice that makes my stomach flutter traitorously. The circular driveway crunches under our tires. A woman in a crisp uniform emerges from the front entrance, middle-aged, with steel-gray hair pulled back severely. She doesn't meet my eyes when Henry introduces her as Mrs. Kovac, the head of household staff. "Mrs. Kovac will show you to your quarters," Henry says, finally looking at me directly. Those dark eyes seem to see straight through me. "You'll find everything you need has been provided." My quarters. The words come out shakier than I intended. "Your room, Olivia. You'll be staying in the East Wing." He steps closer, and I catch his scent, expensive cologne mixed with something darker, more primal. "We'll discuss the terms of your arrangement tomorrow. Tonight you rest." Mrs. Kovac's touch on my elbow is gentle but firm. "This way, miss." The interior of the mansion is breathtaking, marble floors, crystal chandeliers, artwork that probably costs more than I made in 5 years. But as we climb the sweeping staircase, I notice the cameras in every corner, their red lights blinking like watchful eyes. The beautiful Persian runners can't muffle the sound of electronic locks clicking behind us as we pass through doorways. "Here we are," Mrs. Kovac says, opening a door at the end of a long hallway. The room takes my breath away. It's larger than my entire apartment back home, with a 4-poster bed draped in silk, an antique writing desk by tall windows, and a sitting area with a fireplace already crackling softly. Fresh flowers perfume the air, and someone has laid out an array of clothing in my size on the bed. How did he know? I start to ask, but Mrs. Kovac is already backing toward the door. "Mr. Bravestone is very thorough," she says quietly. "The bathroom is through there. Dinner will be brought up at 8. I suggest you rest, miss. Tomorrow will be challenging." The door closes with a soft click that sounds deafeningly final. I rush to test the handle, but it doesn't budge. Of course. I'm not a guest here. I'm a prisoner in a gilded cage. The windows offer a view of endless forest and mountains, but they're reinforced with some kind of security glass. Even if I could break them, we're at least 3 stories up with nothing but rocky ground below. The bathroom is marble luxury with a tub big enough for 2, but no windows at all. I sink onto the bed, the silk comforter soft against my skin. The dress I'm wearing, the one they put me in at that awful place, is beautiful but strange. Expensive fabric, perfect fit, but I have no memory of putting it on. The thought makes my skin crawl. In the closet, I find designer clothes, all in my size. Casual wear, business attire, even evening gowns. Everything from undergarments to shoes, all perfectly coordinated. It's like he's been planning this for months. A soft knock interrupts my spiraling thoughts. "Come in," I call, though I doubt I have a choice. A young woman enters with a dinner tray, probably not much older than me, with kind eyes and nervous hands. "I'm Elena," she says in accented English. I help with serving. Elena, I say desperately. Please, I need to contact someone. My friends, they'll be worried. She shakes her head quickly, fear flashing in her eyes.
I'm sorry, miss.
No outside contact. Mr. Bravestone's orders. She sets the tray on the small table by the fireplace. But the food is good. Mrs. Kovac, she cooks very well. After Elena leaves, I stare at the meal. Roasted chicken, vegetables, wine that probably costs more than my monthly rent. My stomach growls, but eating feels like accepting the situation. Like giving up. But I haven't eaten since yesterday morning, and I need strength for whatever comes next. The food is incredible, but it tastes like ash in my mouth. Every bite feels like a betrayal of my own dignity.
I watch her on the monitors from my study, nursing a glass of Macallan 25 that does nothing to quiet the storm in my head. She's examining every inch of the room, testing the door, checking the windows. Smart girl. Most of them spend the first night crying or screaming. But not Olivia. She's thinking, planning. I can practically see the wheels turning in that sharp mind of hers. She's changed into simple jeans and a sweater from the wardrobe I had prepared. I'd researched her for 3 days before the auction, learning her routines, her preferences, her weaknesses. I know she drinks her coffee with French vanilla creamer, that she has a fondness for classic literature, that she's been alone for far too long. I tell myself it's just thorough preparation. But the truth is more disturbing. I'd been obsessed with her from the moment I saw her photograph in the auction catalogue. There was something in her eyes, even in that grainy picture, that called to me. When I saw her in person at the auction house, defiant despite her fear, I knew I had to have her. Not just as property, but as something more. Something I haven't wanted in years. My phone buzzes with a text from Victor, my associate who runs the Eastern European operations. Package delivered safely. Yes, I reply simply. Victor doesn't need to know how this acquisition affects me. How she affects me. I've done this before, brought women here, kept them until they served their purpose. Some became assistants, others companions for business events. A few became more intimate arrangements. All eventually left when their debts were paid, usually grateful for the experience despite the unconventional beginning. But watching Olivia adapt to her new environment, seeing her intelligence and resilience, I realize this time is different. This time, I don't want her to leave at all. She's finished eating and is now sitting by the fire, staring into the flames. The light plays across her face, highlighting the interesting angles of her features, not conventionally beautiful, but striking in a way that gets under your skin. I should go to her now, establish the parameters of our relationship while she's still vulnerable. It's what I've always done before. Strike while they're off balance, set the rules when they're too confused to argue effectively. Instead, I pour another whiskey and continue watching. Something about her makes me want to be different, though I can't name what or why. The feeling is as intoxicating as it is dangerous. Tomorrow, I'll begin the process of making her mine. But tonight, I'll let her have this small piece. God knows it may be the last she gets for a while.
I don't sleep. How could I? Every sound in this vast house makes me jump. Footsteps in the hallway, the house settling, the wind in the trees outside. I keep expecting Henry to appear, to make demands I'm not ready to face. But he doesn't come. As dawn breaks over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of rose and gold, I realize I've survived my first night as a captive. It's a small victory, but I'll take it. A soft knock on the door announces Elena's return with breakfast and fresh clothes laid out for the day. Mr. Bravestone requests your presence in his study at 9 o'clock, she says, avoiding my eyes. I check the antique clock on the mantel. 8:30. 30 minutes to prepare for whatever comes next. The clothes he's chosen are significant, A tailored black dress that's professional but feminine, low heels that won't allow me to run effectively. Everything calculated to put me at a disadvantage while maintaining the illusion of respect. I dress carefully, aware that this is some kind of test. In the mirror, I barely recognize myself. The woman looking back appears composed, elegant even. But I can see the fear in my own eyes, the uncertainty I'm trying so hard to hide. At exactly 9 o'clock, Elena escorts me through the maze of hallways to a heavy oak door. She knocks softly and waits for permission before opening it. "Miss Olivia," she announces, then quickly retreats, leaving me alone with my captor.
Chapter 7.
She stands in my doorway like a reluctant goddess, chin raised despite the fear I can smell on her skin. The dress fits perfectly. I have an excellent eye for such things, and the soft morning light streaming through my study windows catches the auburn highlights in her dark hair. "Please, sit," I say, gesturing to the leather chair across from my desk. I don't stand, don't offer pleasantries. Power dynamics are established through such small gestures, and I need her to understand the hierarchy from the beginning. She hesitates for just a moment before moving to the chair, her posture straight, hands folded in her lap. Even now, she maintains dignity. "It's fascinating. You slept well, I hope?" I ask, though I know she didn't. The cameras showed her pacing, staring out windows, testing the door handle multiple times throughout the night. "As well as can be expected," she replies carefully, "given the circumstances." I smile at that. The circumstances. Yes, let's discuss those, shall we? I lean back in my chair, steeping my fingers. "You find yourself in debt to me, Olivia. A significant debt." "I didn't agree to any debt," she says, and there's fire in her voice despite her obvious fear. "I was kidnapped, drugged, and sold like cattle. None of that was my choice." "But the choices that led you there were yours," I counter smoothly. "The choice to leave your hotel against explicit warnings. The choice to enter that bar alone. The choice to accept drinks from strangers. Every decision has consequences, and now you must face yours." Her hands clench in her lap, but she doesn't break eye contact. "So what happens now? You keep me here forever. Make me your slave." "Slave is such an ugly word," I say, rising from my chair to pace behind the desk. "Movement makes people nervous, keeps them off balance. I prefer to think of our arrangement as mutually beneficial. You provide certain services, and in return, you receive shelter, protection, and the opportunity to pay off your debt." "What kind of services?" The question comes out as barely a whisper. I pause my pacing, letting the silence stretch until she's visibly uncomfortable. "That depends entirely on your attitude and cooperation. You could be my personal assistant. I have several business ventures that require organization, correspondence, travel arrangements. Very professional, very proper." Relief flickers across her face, and I continue, my voice dropping lower. "Or you could serve in a more intimate capacity, accompanying me to social events, providing companionship, attending to my personal needs." The color drains from her cheeks, but she doesn't look away. "And if I refuse?" "Refusal isn't really an option, Olivia. But I'm not unreasonable. Good behavior is rewarded. Defiance is discouraged." I return to my seat, opening a manila folder on my desk. "I've taken the liberty of researching your background. 28 years old, no family to speak of, employed as an administrative coordinator at Morrison & Associates, a job that barely pays your bills, I imagine." Her face hardens as I recite the details of her life. "Your friends Heather and Scott have already returned to the United States. They filed a missing person report, but the local authorities are less than helpful when it comes to tourists who disregard safety warnings. As far as anyone knows, you wandered off and disappeared in a foreign country with a questionable legal system." "You're lying," she whispers, but I can see the hope dying in her eyes. "I'm many things, Olivia, but I'm not a liar." Would you like to see the police report? Heather was quite hysterical, according to the translator. I slide a document across the desk. She blames herself for not stopping you from leaving the hotel. She doesn't reach for the paper, but I can see it's taking all her strength not to break down. This is the crucial moment, when they realize how truly alone they are, how completely they depend on me now. However, I continue, my voice gentling slightly, this doesn't have to be a punishment. I can be generous to those who serve me well. You could have luxuries you never dreamed of, travel to places you've only seen in magazines, wear clothes that cost more than your yearly salary. In exchange for what? She asks, and I admire how she keeps her voice steady. Loyalty, obedience, and trust that I know what's best for you. I lean forward, studying her face. You've been drifting through life, haven't you? Working a job you hate, living in a tiny apartment, watching everyone else find happiness while you remain invisible. I can give you purpose, Olivia. I can make you matter. For a moment, something flickers in her eyes, not just fear or anger, but a desperate hunger. She wants to matter, wants to be significant. It's the vulnerability I've been looking for.
His words cut deeper than any physical blow could. How dare he dissect my life like a specimen under a microscope, expose my failures and loneliness as if they justify what he's done to me. But the worst part is that he's right. I was invisible back home, floating through each day without purpose or passion. The realization makes me feel sick. I can see you're processing this, he says, his voice infuriatingly calm. That's good. Intelligence is one of your more appealing qualities. You don't know anything about me. I snap, but even as I say it, I know it's not true. He seems to know everything. My job, my loneliness, my deepest insecurities. I know you drink French vanilla coffee with 2 sugars every morning at 6:45. I know you named your goldfish Mr. Darcy because you're a romantic at heart despite your practical exterior. I know you haven't been with a man in over a year because none of them could give you what you really crave. My cheeks burn with humiliation. And what is it I supposedly crave? He stands and walks around the desk, moving with predatory grace until he's standing directly in front of my chair. This close, I can see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes, smell his expensive cologne mixed with something uniquely male that makes my traitorous body respond despite my fear. You crave intensity, he says softly, reaching out to touch my chin, tilting my face up to meet his gaze. You want to feel alive, to be desired by someone powerful enough to take what he wants. You want to surrender control to someone strong enough to handle it. I jerk away from his touch, my skin burning where his fingers made contact. You're insane. Am I? He doesn't move away, towering over me instead. Your pulse is racing. Your pupils are dilated. Fear doesn't cause that particular combination of responses, Olivia. Arousal does. I hate you, I whisper, but my voice shakes with something that isn't entirely anger. No, he says, and his smile is devastating. You hate that you don't hate me. You hate that part of you that's already wondering what it would be like to let me take control, to stop fighting so hard just to survive each day. He's wrong. He has to be wrong. But my body is betraying me, responding to his proximity, his confidence, the dark promise in his voice. I'm going to give you a choice, he says, finally stepping back. You can spend today in your room, thinking about what I've said, considering your options. Or you can come with me. Let me show you what your life could be like here. Some choice, I mutter. More of a choice than you've made for yourself in years, he counters. When's the last time you took a real risk, Olivia? When's the last time you did something that scared you? 3 days ago, I think, but I don't say it. 3 days ago, I left that hotel room and walked into the night looking for adventure. And look where it got me. As if reading my thoughts, he says, you went to that bar because you were desperate to feel something, anything other than the numbness of your ordinary life. I'm offering you the extraordinary. The question is whether you're brave enough to take it. I want to tell him I'm not interested, that I'll never cooperate with whatever sick game he's playing. But the words stick in my throat because part of me, a part one don't want to acknowledge, is curious about what he's offering. If I agree to cooperate, I say carefully, what exactly would you require of me? His smile widens, and I realize I've just taken the first step into his trap. Today, simply your company. We'll start small, build trust. I want to show you the grounds, introduce you to the staff, help you understand how things work here. And later, we'll see how well you adapt. He moves back to his desk, picking up a small silver bell. Elena will show you to the garden. I'll meet you there in 30 minutes. The dismissal is clear, but as I stand to leave, he calls my name softly. Olivia. I turn back, and the intensity in his gaze makes my knees weak. Don't try to run. The estate is surrounded by 20 miles of wilderness, and my security team knows these mountains better than you know your own neighborhood. But more importantly, where would you go? Back to that empty apartment and meaningless job? Back to watching life happen to everyone but you? I don't answer, because I can't. He's stripped away every defense, every rationalization, leaving me naked before the truth of my own disappointment with the life I was living. As I leave his study, I catch my reflection in the mirror hanging in the hallway. The woman looking back at me isn't the same person who woke up in that hotel room in Eastern Europe. That woman was running away from her life. This woman is about to discover what she's been running toward.
I watch her leave, admiring the unconscious sway of her hips, the way she holds her shoulders despite the weight of our conversation. She's stronger than she knows, which makes breaking her down and building her back up all the more satisfying. The first phase is always the most delicate. Push too hard, and they shatter completely. Too gentle, and they never fully submit. But Olivia is different from the others. She has a core of steel wrapped in softness, and I find myself genuinely interested in the challenge she presents. My phone buzzes with a text from my head of security, Ivan. Perimeter check complete. No unusual activity. Good. I hadn't expected any. It would take weeks for anyone to track her here, if they even tried. But I don't take chances with my investments. And Olivia is definitely an investment. In what, exactly, I'm not entirely sure yet. But watching her process my words, seeing the conflict between her principles and her desires, I know she's going to be worth every penny I paid for her. I have 45 minutes before our garden meeting. Time enough to review the psychological profile my people compiled on her. The more I understand her motivations, her fears, her secret longings, the more effectively I can shape her into what I need her to be. What I want her to be. The distinction is troubling, but I push the thought aside. I've built an empire by understanding human nature, by recognizing what people want and positioning myself to provide it. Olivia wants purpose, passion, someone strong enough to take charge of her directionless life. I can give her all of that. In return, she'll give me something I didn't realize I was missing until I saw her standing defiant in that auction house. She'll give me a worthy adversary to conquer, and perhaps, eventually, a willing partner to keep.
Chapter 8.
3 weeks. It's been 3 weeks since Henry bought me like a piece of furniture, and I'm starting to lose track of who I was before this place. The routine he's established is insidious in its normalcy. Breakfast at 8, morning walks through the meticulously maintained gardens, lunch on the terrace overlooking the valley, afternoons in his study where he teaches me about his various business ventures. He's a patient teacher, explaining the intricacies of international trade, real estate development, and financial investments with the same careful attention he might give to training a beloved pet. The comparison makes my skin crawl, but I can't deny that his world is fascinating in ways my old life never was. You're learning quickly, he says as I organize files on his desk. We're preparing for a conference call with investors in Singapore, and he's insisted I take notes. Your previous employer didn't utilize your intelligence properly. I look up from the papers, studying his face. Is that supposed to be a compliment? It's an observation. He moves closer, and I catch that scent again. Expensive cologne, and something darker that makes my pulse quicken despite myself. You're wasted on simple administrative tasks, Olivia. You have the mind for strategy, for seeing the bigger picture. The bigger picture of what? Your criminal empire? His laugh is rich and genuinely amused. Criminal is such a pedestrian term. I prefer to think of myself as an entrepreneur who operates in markets others are too timid to enter. You mean illegal markets? I mean lucrative markets. He perches on the edge of his desk, close enough that I can feel the warmth radiating from his body. Tell me, in your old life, did you ever break any rules? Speed limits? Downloaded music without paying? Taken office supplies home? That's hardly the same as human trafficking. He says it so casually, so matter-of-factly, that for a moment I'm too shocked to respond. You're right, of course. The scale is different. But the principle is the same. We all operate outside certain boundaries when it serves our purposes. I never hurt anyone, I whisper. Neither have I directly. He reaches out to touch my cheek, and I'm ashamed of how my body leans into the contact before my mind can stop it. Everyone who's ever worked for me has been compensated fairly for their services. Including you. Compensated? I jerk away from his touch. You kidnapped me. I rescued you, he corrects, his voice hardening slightly. Do you think those men who took you from the bar had your best interests at heart? Do you think they planned to treat you with the respect and care you receive here? The thought makes me shudder. I've tried not to think about what might have happened if Henry hadn't been at that auction, hadn't bid on me. The other men there had looked at the women like meat, their intentions clear and brutal. You see? Henry's voice gentles again. I saved you from a fate far worse than this. The least you could do is show some gratitude. Gratitude. The word comes out strangled. You want me to thank you for buying me like a slave? I want you to recognize that your life has improved considerably since you came under my protection. He stands, moving to the window that overlooks the gardens. When's the last time you felt intellectually stimulated, Olivia? When's the last time someone valued your opinions, your insights? I want to argue, but the truthful answer is never. In my old job, I was invisible, my suggestions dismissed or ignored. Here, Henry actually listens when I speak, considers my ideas, treats me like my thoughts matter. That's what I thought, he says, reading my silence correctly. You're thriving here, whether you want to admit it or not.
She's been quiet through dinner, picking at the perfectly prepared meal Mrs. Cover sent up to the dining room. I can practically hear the wheels turning in her head, processing our earlier conversation, wrestling with truths she doesn't want to acknowledge. Tell me about your family, I say, partly to break the silence and partly because I want to understand what shaped her into the woman sitting across from me. She looks up sharply. Why? Because I'm curious about you. Is that so surprising? She sets down her fork, studying my face as if trying to detect deception. My parents died in a car accident when I was 15. I was raised by my grandmother. She passed away 3 years ago. That's it. There's not much else to tell. No siblings. No extended family. I asked. No, just me, she replied. The words are simple, but they carry the weight of profound loneliness. I know what you're doing, by the way. What am I doing? Trying to make me feel like I have nothing to go back to. Like this is better than my real life. She meets my eyes directly. It won't work. But I can see in her expression that it already is working. The isolation, the luxury, the intellectual stimulation. I'm giving her everything she was missing in her old life, and she's starting to recognize it. What if I told you I had nothing to go back to either? I ask, the words surprising me even as I say them. What do you mean? I pour myself another glass of wine, buying time to decide how much to reveal. I mean that power and wealth don't necessarily translate to meaningful connections. You're not the only one who's been lonely, Olivia. She laughs, but there's no humor in it. You're comparing your loneliness to mine. You chose this life. You chose to isolate yourself with your criminal activities and your need to control everything around you. Did I? I lean back in my chair, studying her reaction. You assume I had choices. That I decided one day to become the man I am now. Didn't you? I'm quiet for a long moment, debating whether to open this door. But something about her earnest gaze, the way she's looking at me like I might be human after all, makes me want to show her the scars I keep hidden. I was 7 when my father sold me to pay off a gambling debt. I say finally. The men who bought me weren't interested in my potential as a businessman. The color drains from her face. Henry. I learned very young that the world is divided into those who have power and those who don't. Those who control and those who are controlled. I decided which side I wanted to be on. That doesn't justify. It doesn't justify anything, I interrupt. It explains it. There's a difference. She's staring at me now, and I can see the war playing out in her expression, the desire to maintain her anger warring with unwanted compassion. It's exactly the reaction I was hoping for. How did you escape? She asks quietly. I didn't escape. I evolved. I learned to be more valuable to my captors than the money they'd paid for me. I made myself indispensable, then irreplaceable, then powerful enough to take control. I meet her eyes. It took 15 years. 15 years, she repeats, and I can see her doing the math. 7 to 22. Her entire adolescence and early adulthood. So you see, Olivia, I understand what it's like to be trapped, to be owned by someone else's will. The difference is that I'm offering you a choice I never had. What choice? The choice to embrace your situation instead of fighting it. To find power within the constraints instead of beating yourself bloody against the bars of your cage.
I was deeply affected by his story. It felt like a physical shock. A 7-year-old boy, sold like property, abused for 15 years. The image is so horrible I can barely process it, but it explains so much about the man sitting across from me. The carefully controlled demeanor, the need to dominate every situation, the way he sees relationships in terms of power dynamics, it all makes a terrible kind of sense now. I'm sorry, I whisper, and I mean it. I'm sorry that happened to you. I don't want your pity, he says sharply, and for a moment I see the wounded child beneath the sophisticated exterior. It's not pity. It's understanding, I guess. I lean forward, studying his face. But Henry, what happened to you doesn't make what you're doing to me right. Doesn't it? His voice is quiet, almost vulnerable. I'm giving you everything I never had: safety, comfort, intellectual stimulation, someone who values you. I'm not hurting you, not forcing you to do anything that would traumatize you. I'm offering you a life of luxury and purpose. In exchange for my freedom. Freedom to do what? Go back to that tiny apartment and meaningless job? Freedom to be invisible and lonely and desperate enough to walk into dangerous situations looking for something, anything, to make you feel alive. The words sting because they're true, but I shake my head. Freedom to choose. Freedom to leave if I want to. Freedom to say no. And if I gave you that freedom right now, if I opened the gates and let you walk away, what would you choose? The question hangs in the air between us. He's watching me intently, and I realize this is another test, another psychological game. But the terrifying thing is, I don't know what my answer would be. I start, then stop, horrified by my own uncertainty. You don't know, he says softly, and there's something like triumph in his voice. Because part of you recognizes that what we have here, what we're building together, is more real than anything you had in your old life. We're not building anything, I protest. You're manipulating me. I'm showing you possibilities. There's a difference. He reaches across the table, covering my hand with his. I see potential in you, Olivia. Strength and intelligence and passion that's been dormant for years. I can help you become the woman you were always meant to be. His hand is warm, his touch gentle despite the calluses I can feel on his palm. I should pull away, maintain the physical distance that helps me think clearly. Instead, I find myself staring at our joined hands, at the way his fingers dwarf mine. What do you want from me? I ask, and my voice comes out husky, uncertain. Everything, he says simply. Your trust, your loyalty, your passion. Your complete surrender to the life we could build together. And if I can't give you that? His thumb traces across my knuckles, and the simple touch sends electricity shooting up my arm. You can. You're stronger than you know, and braver than you give yourself credit for. You just need someone to show you how. Someone like you? Someone exactly like me. He brings my hand to his lips, pressing a soft kiss to my palm that makes my breath catch. I've been waiting for you, Olivia. I just didn't know it until I saw you in that auction house, defiant and beautiful and utterly lost. I'm not lost, I whisper, but the words lack conviction. You are drowning in mediocrity, he says against my palm, his breath warm on my skin. Let me teach you to swim in deeper waters. I should pull away. I should remember that this man bought me, that I'm here against my will, that everything he's saying is designed to break down my resistance. But the combination of his tragic past, his gentle touch, and the undeniable truth of his words about my empty life is overwhelming my defenses. I'm scared, I admit, the words barely audible. Good, he says, finally releasing my hand. Fear means you're alive. Fear means you're about to do something that matters. He stands and moves around the table, offering me his hand. Come with me. Where? Trust me. I stare at his outstretched hand, knowing that taking it will mean crossing a line I can't uncross. But the alternative, sitting here, maintaining my stubborn resistance while my heart pounds with something that isn't entirely fear, feels like a different kind of surrender. Slowly, hesitantly, I place my hand in his. His fingers close around mine, warm and sure, and I feel something shift between us. The dynamic is still unequal, the situation's still wrong, but for the first time since I arrived here, I'm making a choice, even if it's the wrong one. Good girl, he murmurs, and the approval in his voice sends a dangerous thrill through me. Let's see how far you're willing to go.
Chapter 9.
2 months have now passed since I made the choice that changed everything. Not when Henry bought me, that was done to me. But when I took his hand that night at dinner, when I chose to see the broken boy behind the monster's mask. I wake to the sound of rain against my windows. Windows that no longer feel like prison bars. The security glass remains, but Henry gave me the code to my door a month ago. I could leave my room anytime I wanted. I could walk the grounds freely. But leaving Raven's Hollow entirely? That conversation hadn't come yet. The grandfather clock in the hallway chimes 6 times as I make my way downstairs. Henry's already in his study. I can see the light beneath the door. He hasn't touched me in 3 days. He's been restless lately, taking calls at odd hours, speaking in languages I don't recognize. Something's changed, and it's not just between us. Elena greets me in the kitchen with her usual nervous smile, but today there's something else in her eyes.
Fear.
Miss Olivia, she whispers, glancing toward the study. There are visitors coming today. Mr. Bravestone, he wanted me to tell you to stay in the East Wing. All day. My blood chills. In 4 weeks, Henry has never restricted my movements within the house. What kind of visitors? Elena's hands shake as she pours my coffee. The kind from before. From his old business.
I hear Olivia's footsteps in the hallway. Light, purposeful. She's learned to move through my house like she belongs here, and the realization both thrills and terrifies me. Victor's call at dawn shattered any illusion that my past would simply disappear because I found something worth protecting. The girl is becoming a liability, Victor had said in his thick accent. Too much time, too much attention. The consortium is asking questions. The consortium. The shadowy network of wealthy degenerates who fund operations like the auction where I found Olivia. They don't like their investments developing consciences. They especially don't like when their top acquisitioner starts showing mercy. A soft knock interrupts my brooding. Come in. Olivia enters, and as always, the sight of her steals my breath. She's wearing one of the dresses I bought her, deep emerald that brings out her eyes, but it's not the expensive fabric that moves me. It's the way she carries herself now, shoulders back, chin raised. No longer the frightened woman from the auction house. Elena says I should stay in the East Wing today. Her voice is steady, but I can see the questions in her eyes. I set down my phone and study her face. 3 months of our careful dance around each other, of testing boundaries and building trust, and now it might all crumble because of my past sins. Yes, I have business associates coming. They wouldn't understand our arrangement. Our arrangement. She steps closer to my desk, and I fight the urge to reach for her. Is that what we're calling this? Olivia. 3 months, Henry. 3 months of you teaching me about your legitimate businesses, of us talking until dawn about everything except what brought us together. 2 months of me choosing to trust you, and you're still lying to me. The accusation hits like a gut punch. She's right, of course. Despite everything, I've been protecting her from the full truth of what I am, what I've done, what I'm still tied to. The men coming today, I begin, then stop. How do you explain to someone that the very people who facilitated your meeting want to destroy what you've built together? They're here because of me, aren't they? Her voice is barely a whisper. I nod, unable to meet her eyes. They think I've gone soft. That you've compromised my judgment. Have I? The question hangs between us like a blade. Have you? God, yes. You've turned my carefully controlled world upside down. You've made me question everything I believed about power and control and what it means to possess someone completely. Yes, I admit. But not in the way they think. She moves around the desk, her hand hovering just above mine. Then tell me the truth. All of it. Let me choose with full knowledge this time.
His eyes close as if I've caused him physical pain. When he looks at me again, there's something raw and desperate in his expression that makes my heart race. The consortium that runs the auction houses, the human trafficking networks, they want you back. Or more accurately, they want me to prove I'm still their reliable asset by disposing of you. The words hit me like ice water. Disposing of me? The women I've acquired before, they were always temporary. Used for information, for leverage, then sold to others, or... He can't finish the sentence. Or killed. I complete it for him, surprised by how steady my voice sounds. He nods, his jaw clenched. But from the moment I saw you at that auction, something changed. I told myself it was because you showed potential, because you could be useful in my legitimate businesses. But that was a lie. What was the truth? He stands suddenly, moving to the window. The morning light catches the sharp angles of his face, and I'm struck again by how beautiful and dangerous he is. The truth is that I was obsessed with you before I ever bought you. I had Victor's people gathering information about you for days before the auction. I knew your routines, your preferences, your fears. I told myself it was due diligence, but it was possession. Pure, consuming need. My breath catches. And what information did they gather? Your coffee order. Your route to work. The way you fed that damn goldfish and talked to him like he was your only friend. I knew you were lonely, Olivia. I knew you were desperate for something more than your small, safe life. And I exploited that. The confession should terrify me. Instead, I feel something else entirely, a dark thrill at being the object of such intense focus. God help me, but I understand now why he fascinates me so completely. He sees me in a way no one ever has. So, when Victor called this morning, I prompt. He gave me an ultimatum. Prove my loyalty by eliminating the distraction, or they'll handle it themselves. Along with me. The threat crystallizes everything. These aren't just business associates, they're killers. And they're coming here. How long do we have? Henry turns from the window, something like surprise flickering in his dark eyes. Did you think I'd run? After 3 months of this strange, twisted courtship we've been engaged in? After finally understanding why I've never felt truly alive until I walked into your world. He crosses to me in 3 quick steps, his hands framing my face. Olivia, you don't understand what you're saying. These people. I understand perfectly. I place my hands over his, feeling the tension thrumming through him. I understand that for the first time in my life, someone looked at me and saw something worth fighting for. Worth dying for, if what you're saying is true. It is. His thumb traces my cheekbone, and I lean into the touch. They'll be here within the hour. Then we need a plan.
The sound of vehicles on the gravel drive reaches us 47 minutes later. Victor travels with a small army, 3 black SUVs and enough firepower to level a small town. But it's not the guns that worry me. It's what Victor represents. The old Henry, the one who saw people as commodities and power as the only currency that mattered. Olivia insisted on staying in the main house despite my protests. She's positioned herself in the library, just down the hall from my study, with strict instructions to run if things go badly. I don't tell her that running won't matter if Victor decides we've both outlived our usefulness. Ivan opens the front door, and I hear Victor's distinctive laugh echoing through the foyer. He always did enjoy making an entrance. Henry, my friend. Victor's voice booms as he enters my study without invitation, as is his way. He's a bear of a man, all thick muscle and cruel eyes, dressed in an expensive suit that can't disguise his savage nature. Behind him come 2 of his lieutenants, Dmitri and Pavel, and another man I don't recognize. Young, clean-cut, with the kind of dead eyes that mark him as one of Victor's newest recruits. Victor. I don't rise from behind my desk, a calculated show of disrespect that makes his smile falter slightly. To what do I owe the pleasure? You know why I'm here. He settles his bulk into one of my leather chairs without invitation. 3 months, Henry. 3 months since your last acquisition, and you haven't delivered a single asset to market. The consortium is concerned. My contracts don't specify delivery timelines. No, but they do specify results. And your recent results have been disappointing. His gaze sharpens. Where is she? Who? Victor's laugh has no humor in it. The girl from the Moldavian auction. Lot 7. €150,000, if I recall correctly. That's expensive merchandise to keep for personal use. She's proven useful in other ways. I'm sure she has. Victor leans forward, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. But useful how, exactly? Intelligence gathering? Corporate espionage? Or has she simply been warming your bed while you play house? The insult hits its mark, as Victor intended. But before I can respond, I hear something that stops my blood cold. Olivia's voice in the hallway, speaking to Elena about lunch preparations. Victor's eyes light up with predatory interest. Ah! The merchandise reveals herself. He's on his feet and moving toward the door before I can stop him. I follow, my hand instinctively moving to the gun concealed beneath my jacket.
I'm discussing menu options with Elena when the study door opens and a mountain of a man emerges, followed closely by Henry. The stranger's eyes find me immediately, and the look he gives me makes my skin crawl. So this is the famous Lot 7. His accent is thick, Russian, or Eastern European. I can see the appeal, though I expected someone more substantial for such a high price. Henry moves to position himself slightly between us, a gesture so subtle I almost miss it. But the stranger notices, and his smile widens. Introductions are in order, yes? I am Viktor Kozlov, Henry's oldest business partner, and you are the reason my friend has forgotten his obligations. I'm Olivia Sanchez. I keep my voice level, though every instinct screams at me to run. Henry's mentioned you. Has he? Victor's eyes glitter with malicious amusement. I wonder what he said. That I'm the one who taught him everything he knows about acquiring and managing assets like yourself. The casual cruelty in his tone makes my stomach turn, but I force myself to meet his gaze steadily. He's mentioned that you're part of his past, not his future. The temperature in the hallway seems to drop 10 degrees. Victor's smile disappears entirely, replaced by something cold and calculating. Is that so? He looks between Henry and me, and I can see him piecing together the dynamic he's witnessing. How very interesting. Henry, perhaps we should continue this conversation in private. Perhaps we should. Henry's voice carries a warning, but Victor either doesn't hear it or doesn't care. Excellent. Miss Sanchez, it was a pleasure to meet you. I suspect we'll be speaking again very soon. The threat in his words is unmistakable. As he turns to follow Henry back into the study, I catch Henry's eye. The look that passes between us says everything. This is it. The moment when our strange, twisted relationship either survives or dies. I think of the frightened, lonely woman I was just 3 months ago. She would have hidden in her room, paralyzed by fear and uncertainty. But that woman died the night I took Henry's hand at dinner. The woman I am now, the woman he's helped me become, doesn't run from a fight. I have a choice to make, and for perhaps the first time in my adult life, I know exactly what I want to choose.
Victor closes the study door behind us and immediately drops all pretense of civility. You've lost your mind. He begins pacing, his massive frame making my spacious study feel cramped. 3 months of playing house with a piece of merchandise while the consortium questions whether you've forgotten your place in the hierarchy. My place in the hierarchy. Don't play games, Henry. You've been useful to us for years because you understand the rules. You acquire, you deliver, you collect your fee. You don't fall in love with the inventory. The word love hangs in the air between us like an accusation. Because that's what this is, isn't it? This consuming need to protect Olivia, to keep her safe and close and mine, it's love. Twisted and born from darkness, but love nonetheless. She's not inventory anymore. Victor stops pacing. Excuse me. You heard me. She's not for sale. Not to you, not to anyone. That's not your decision to make. Victor's voice drops to a dangerous whisper. The consortium invested considerable resources in that auction. They expect returns on their investments. Then they'll have to look elsewhere. Henry. Victor moves closer to my desk, his hands spread wide in a gesture that's meant to look reasonable but carries an unmistakable threat. You're not thinking clearly. This girl, she's clouded your judgment. Made you weak. Has she? Look at yourself. You used to be our most reliable operative. Now you're ready to throw away years of partnership for what? A woman who was literally for sale. The insult hits its mark, but not in the way Victor intended. Instead of shame, I feel rage, pure, cleansing fury at hearing Olivia described like damaged goods. Careful, Victor. Or what? He leans forward, placing his hands on my desk. You'll defend her honor. The honor of a woman who was drugged and sold like cattle. I'm on my feet before I realize I've moved, my hands gripping the edge of the desk hard enough to make my knuckles white. I said careful. Victor laughs, the sound ugly and triumphant. There it is. There's the weakness I came to root out. You've let a piece of used merchandise turn you into something soft. Something expendable. Get out. I'm afraid that's not how this works. Victor straightens, and I notice his lieutenants have positioned themselves between me and the door. The consortium has made a decision. Your services are no longer required. The girl will be returned to market, and you've become a liability. The threat crystallizes everything. This was never about business partnerships. This is about control, about ensuring that no one in their organization ever forgets their place. And my place, according to Victor, is a servant, not a man capable of love. Over my dead body. As you wish. Victor nods to his men, and I see hands moving toward concealed weapons. I'd prefer to avoid the mess. Step aside, Henry. Let us collect our property and go. She's not property. Not anymore. She's whatever we say she is. Victor's mask of reasonableness finally slips completely. Just like you are. Just like you've always been, ever since I pulled you out of that basement when you were 7 years old. The reference to my childhood was like a jab in the stomach. Victor was there when I was sold, when I learned that power was the only thing that mattered in this world. He shaped me into what I became, taught me to see people as assets and emotions as weaknesses. But Olivia changed that. She's shown me that power without love is just another form of slavery. That boy died a long time ago, Victor. And so did the man you made him into. Victor's eyes narrow. Then you've made your choice. Pavel, Dmitri. The study door flies open before he can finish the command. Olivia stands in the doorway, and in her hands is my spare pistol from the desk drawer. She's holding it with the competence of someone who knows how to use it, though her hands are trembling slightly. I think you gentlemen should leave. Her voice is steady despite the weapon in her hands. Now. Victor turns slowly, his expression shifting from anger to something approaching delight. Well, the merchandise has teeth after all. I'm not merchandise. Olivia steps into the room, keeping the gun trained on Victor. I'm Henry's partner. And you're trespassing on our property. Our property. The words hit me with surprising force. She's claimed this place, claimed me, claimed us as if we're something real and worth fighting for. Victor looks between us, and I can see him calculating odds and outcomes. 3 of his men, 1 of me, 1 untrained woman with a gun she may or may not be willing to use. This is touching, truly, but also pointless. Victor signals his men with a subtle gesture. Dmitri, disarm the lady. Pavel, contain Henry. The new boy can watch and learn. What happens next unfolds in slow motion. Dimitri moves toward Olivia, confident in his ability to overpower her. Pavel advances on me, hand moving to his weapon. And I realize that everything I thought I understood about power and control has been wrong. True power isn't the ability to dominate others. It's the willingness to sacrifice everything for what you love. I draw my gun and put 3 bullets center mass into Pavel before he clears leather. The sound is deafening in the confined space, and Victor's youngest lieutenant stumbles backward in shock. Olivia doesn't hesitate. As Dimitri reaches for her, she pulls the trigger twice. The first shot goes wide, but the second catches him in the shoulder, spinning him around and sending him crashing into my bookshelf. Victor, to his credit, doesn't flinch. Instead, he draws his own weapon with practiced ease and aims it at Olivia's head. An impressive display, but ultimately futile. Drop your weapons, both of you, or I paint these expensive walls with her brains. The moment stretches like a taut wire. Victor has the advantage, better position, more experience, and the willingness to kill an innocent woman to make his point. In the old days, I would have calculated the odds and made the practical choice. Cut my losses and find another asset to replace Olivia. But those days are gone. Killed by a woman who looked at a monster and saw something worth saving. Victor. I keep my gun trained on him, though we both know he has the better shot. Last chance. Walk away. I don't think so. His finger tightens on the trigger. You've forgotten who you are, Henry. Allow me to remind you. Time slows to a crawl. I see Victor's finger beginning to squeeze, see the muzzle of his gun pointed at the woman who's become my entire world. I see my own death in the choice I'm about to make, and find that I don't care. I dive toward Olivia as Victor's gun explodes, firing shots at Victor simultaneously.
Chapter 10.
The scar on Henry's shoulder pulls tight as he reaches for the coffee pot, and I resist the urge to tell him to be careful. 6 months since Victor's bullet tore through muscle and bone. 6 months since everything changed, and he still pushes himself too hard. The physical therapist said you should avoid overhead reaches for another month. I remind him from my place at the kitchen table, where financial documents from Henry's legitimate businesses are spread in organized chaos. The physical therapist doesn't understand that some things are worth a little pain. He pours 2 cups of coffee and brings one to me, pressing a kiss to the top of my head as he sets it down. How are the numbers looking? I gesture to the spreadsheets covering every surface. Better than expected. The security consulting firm is showing a 20% increase in contracts this quarter. Apparently, there's high demand for someone with your unique qualifications. It's been a complete transformation. After Victor's death, after Henry threw himself between a gun and me without hesitation, we spent 3 days dealing with police, lawyers, and cleaning up the mess that 15 years of criminal associations had created. Henry made calls, paid debts, and cut every tie that connected him to his former life. The consortium made one attempt at retaliation 2 months ago. They sent a cleaner, a young man with dead eyes who reminded me uncomfortably of Henry's description of his younger self. Ivan found him trying to scale the perimeter fence and convinced him that his employers had sent him on a suicide mission. After that, nothing. Word had apparently spread through their network that Henry Bravestone was no longer the reliable asset he'd once been. More importantly, he was no longer afraid of them. The real estate portfolio is performing well too. I continue, shuffling through another stack of papers. Though I still think we should divest from the overseas properties. Too many questions about their acquisition. Henry settles into the chair across from me, and I'm struck again by how different he looks now. The sharp edges that once made him seem predatory have softened into something warmer. Not weak, never weak, but no longer cruel. Agreed. What about the property in Costa Rica? Perfect for our purposes. Isolated enough for privacy, but close enough to civilization that we won't feel completely cut off. I slide a folder across the table. I've been researching local schools. There are several excellent options within driving distance. Henry's hand stills on his coffee cup. Schools. Heat rises in my cheeks. We've been dancing around this conversation for weeks, ever since I realized that the nausea I'd been experiencing wasn't stress-related. Henry, there's something I need to tell you. His eyes search my face, and I see the moment understanding dawns. His expression shifts through surprise, fear, and finally something that looks suspiciously like joy. Are you? 10 weeks. I reach across the table and take his hand. I wanted to be sure before I said anything. Dr. Martinez confirmed it yesterday. For a long moment, he says nothing. His thumb traces patterns on the back of my hand while he processes the information. A baby, he says finally, his voice barely above a whisper. Are you? I start to ask if he's happy, but the question dies on my lips when I see his expression. There are tears in his eyes, actual tears from a man I've seen face down killers without flinching. I never thought. He brings my hand to his lips, pressing a soft kiss to my knuckles. After everything I've done, everything I've been, I never imagined I'd have the chance to be a father. A real father, not like. He doesn't finish the sentence, but I know what he means. Not like his own father, who sold him to pay a gambling debt. Not like the men who shaped him into a weapon and called it education. You'll be amazing, I tell him, and I mean it. The man who once bought me at an auction has become someone I trust completely with my heart, my future, and now our child's future. Will I? His voice carries a vulnerability that still surprises me sometimes. How do you teach a child about love and protection when you learned about power and control? I move around the table and settle onto his lap, careful of his healing shoulder. His arms come around me automatically, holding me against his chest. The same way you learn to love me, I say simply, by choosing to be better than what was done to you.
Olivia falls asleep in my arms as we sit in the garden, her head tucked against my uninjured shoulder. The afternoon sun catches the auburn highlights in her hair, and I find myself memorizing the moment, the weight of her against me, the sound of her steady breathing, the knowledge that she's carrying our child. Our child. The concept still feels surreal. For 35 years, I believed I was fundamentally broken, incapable of creating anything that wasn't tainted by darkness. But Olivia changed that. She saw something in me worth saving, worth fighting for, worth loving. The transformation hasn't been easy. There are days when the old Henry surfaces, when I catch myself thinking in terms of control and possession rather than partnership and trust. But those moments become fewer as time passes, replaced by something I never expected to feel: peace. Ivan approaches from the direction of the house, his expression carefully neutral. In the months since Victor's death, he's become more than just security and driver. He's become a friend, one of the few people who knew the old Henry and accepts the new one without question. "Sir, there's a call for you. The lawyer handling the final dissolution of your overseas accounts." I don't want to disturb Olivia, but she stirs at the sound of voices. "Go," she murmurs without opening her eyes. "I'll be here when you get back." The simple statement carries more weight than she probably realizes. She'll be here. Not because she has to be, not because she's trapped or coerced, but because she chooses to be. Because this is home now, for both of us. The call is routine. Final paperwork, final transfers, the last legal threads connecting me to my former life. When I return to the garden 20 minutes later, Olivia is awake and reading a book on pregnancy and childbirth. "How are you feeling about all this?" she asks without looking up. The complete career change, the impending fatherhood, the domestic bliss. I settle beside her on the garden bench, studying her profile. Terrified, I admit. But not in the way I used to be terrified of losing control. This is different. This is being terrified of not being enough for you, for our child. She closes the book and turns to face me fully. Henry, do you remember what you told me that first week? About how the world is divided into those with power and those without. Yes. You were wrong. Her hand finds mine, fingers intertwining. The world is divided into those who choose love and those who choose fear. Everything else, power, control, money, it's all just noise. And what did I choose? You chose love. Even when it meant giving up everything else, even when it meant facing down your past, even when it meant taking a bullet for me. Her free hand touches my shoulder gently. You chose love, and that's what our child will learn from you. Not power or control, but love and sacrifice and choosing to be better.
The Costa Rican sunrise paints our bedroom in shades of gold and coral as I feed our daughter, Camila. She's 3 months old now, with Henry's dark hair and my stubborn streak, though thankfully she has his ability to sleep through almost anything. She's going to be spoiled, I murmur as Henry traces gentle patterns on Camila's tiny fist while she nurses. Completely and utterly, he agrees without shame. I spent 35 years not knowing what love felt like. I'm making up for lost time. It's been 18 months since that afternoon in his study when Victor tried to reclaim his property and found something worth dying for instead. 18 months of building a life together that neither of us could have imagined when I was lot number 7 at a human trafficking auction. The irony isn't lost on me. The worst thing that ever happened to me led to the best thing that ever happened to me. If Heather and Scott hadn't rekindled their romance, if we hadn't been diverted to Moldavia, if I hadn't been reckless enough to leave the hotel, I would never have met Henry. Never discovered the strength I didn't know I possessed. Never learned what it meant to be truly seen and valued by another person. Do you ever regret it? Henry asks quietly. The way we met, the circumstances that brought us together? It's a question he's asked before, usually in moments like this when contentment makes the past seem simultaneously distant and immediate. Do you regret finding me? I counter. Never. But that's different. I was already lost when I found you. You had a life, a future, choices I took away from you. Camila finishes nursing and I lift her to my shoulder for burping, considering my answer carefully. It's important that he understand this, that he stop carrying guilt for things that can't be changed. The life I had wasn't really living, Henry. It was existing, going through motions, waiting for something to happen to me instead of making things happen. You didn't take away my choices. You showed me I had choices to make. Even if those choices were made under duress? The choice to take your hand at dinner that night wasn't made under duress. The choice to help you fight Victor wasn't made under duress. The choice to stay with you, to build this life with you, to have your child, those were all made freely. I shift Camila to face him, and she makes the soft cooing sounds that never fail to make him smile. I chose you, Henry. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. He takes Camila from me, cradling her against his chest with the practiced ease he's developed over the past 3 months. Watching him with our daughter still takes my breath away. This man who was taught that power came from inspiring fear, who now speaks to Camila in gentle whispers about the flowers in her garden and the birds outside her window. I love you, he says, and the words still carry the weight of revelation, as if he's surprised by their truth every time he speaks them. I love you too. I curl against his side, the 3 of us forming the family I never dared to hope for. All of us. This strange, impossible, perfect family we've built from the ashes of who we used to be.
Camila races through the Costa Rican house we've called home for 4 years now, her dark curls bouncing as she chases the cat Olivia insisted we adopt. At 5, she's fearless in the way only children can be, completely secure in the knowledge that she's loved and protected. "Papa, Mama says you have to help with dinner," she announces, sliding to a stop in front of my desk where I'm reviewing security protocols for the consulting firm. Does she now? I close the laptop and give Camila my full attention. "And what did you tell Mama?" "I told her you're always working and never helping." Camila's grin is pure mischief, so much like Olivia's that it makes my heart ache with happiness. "Well, we can't have that, can we?" I swing her up onto my shoulders, and she shrieks with delight as I carry her toward the kitchen. The house we chose is nothing like Raven's Hollow, open and light-filled, with windows that showcase the surrounding mountains and gardens that Camila helps tend. In the kitchen, Olivia is teaching our newest addition, 3-year-old Ivan, named for the man who's become like family to us, how to wash vegetables. Ivan takes his job very seriously, tongue poking out in concentration as he scrubs carrots with excessive thoroughness. "Reinforcements have arrived," I announce, setting Camila down and stealing a kiss from Olivia while Ivan is distracted. "Good. Camila, show Papa how to make the salad dressing." "Ivan, these carrots are perfectly clean now." This is our life now. Domestic chaos and dinner preparations, bedtime stories, and scraped knees that require kissing better. It's everything I never knew I wanted and everything Olivia dreamed of during those lonely years in her studio apartment. The security consulting firm has grown beyond our expectations, drawing clients who appreciate discretion and results over conventional methods. Olivia handles the business side with the sharp intelligence that first caught my attention at that auction years ago. I handle the field work, using skills learned in darkness to protect light. We've never talked about having more children, but watching Olivia with Camila and Ivan, seeing the joy she takes in motherhood, I find myself hoping. Hoping for more mornings like this, more chaos and laughter and ordinary moments that feel extraordinary because they're ours. "What are you thinking about?" Olivia asks, bumping my shoulder with hers as we watch our children argue over whose turn it is to set the table. "The future," I answer honestly. "All the futures I never thought I'd have." She leans against me, solid and warm and real. "Any regrets?" "Only that it took so long to find you. You found me exactly when you were supposed to." She turns in my arms, her eyes holding all the love and acceptance that still amazes me after all these years. Everything before was just the story that led us to this moment. Outside, the Costa Rican sunset paints the sky in brilliant oranges and purples. Inside, our children's laughter fills the house with music. And between us flows the love that transformed a monster into a man, that turned a victim into a victor, that proved redemption is possible even for those of us who thought we were beyond saving. This is our happy ending, not perfect, but real. Built from choices and sacrifice and the radical decision to believe that people can change, that love can heal, that even the darkest beginnings can lead to the brightest futures. In the end, that's all any of us can hope for, to be seen, to be loved, and to be worthy of the love we're given. We are.
If you enjoyed listening to this audiobook, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. Also turn on notifications so you get notified when a new audiobook is uploaded. Thank you.